Well, good evening to you, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana weather. It's about 6:30 on Sunday evening, and I want to do sort of a little update for you here tonight to give you an understanding of what's going to happen the next few days. It was wet yesterday. That's kind of a no-brainer. Take a look at all the flood warnings that are still in place. If you had to drive out today, going to church or whatever, you may have noticed a lot of creeks out of their banks or very near to the top of their banks. And I know I had to go an alternate way to church this morning because my back roads were flooded over pretty bad. And that's because we ended up with a lot of rain. You can see all of the green here that you have on your map is aerial flood warnings. So if you have to go out over the next few days, just understand that there are going to be some flooded roadways. This is going to take some time to go down. The good news is we don't have any really significant rain in the forecast for a good little while, and so maybe that'll allow things to back off for a little bit. We're looking at some dry days, and so that's a good thing. Some cold days coming up, but nonetheless dry. So let's talk about just exactly how much rain accumulation we did get. We take a look at it, the good folks at the National Weather Service in Indianapolis. If you just go to their website here at it's just weather.gov/IND. At the bottom of their page, they have temperature and precipitation maps from the past 24 hours. I think these are always it's great that they do this. These are helpful. But these are based off of reports that come in and automated observing stations and things. And just take a look at how much rain came yesterday. 3.44 inches here as of the time that they made the map. Actually, that went up a little bit here in Huntingburg. Believe, if I'm remembering right, we're a little closer to 4 inches. But, you know, it ranges from a low of 1.91 as far as I can see here on the map to all the way up to 4.7 here up around Petersburg area. So again, remember the models were calling for, you know, a solid 2, 3, 4+ inch rain event, and really it looks like our models did a pretty good job, and they painted the heavy rain event sort of in a corridor like this, and that's exactly what fell. So I got to admit, I'm pretty impressed with how they did handle the situation. But with all of the rain that fell, on top of, bear in mind, this particular section of Indiana, right in here and back into Illinois, got slammed with anywhere from 6 to even 12 inches of snow just a couple of weeks ago. And you know, whenever you're talking about warming up to near 70 degrees over the past few days, all that's going to melt. And so 6 to 12 inches of snow, putting a liquid equivalent to that, there's another inch of rain water that's going to eventually run off. Add to that the totals here, and well, you can see pretty much exactly why you've got all the flood warnings going on. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to deal with it for a little while. But that does look to change, thankfully, as we get some drier weather in place. So with that drier weather in place, let's talk about the pattern that we're going to have over the next few days. And here we'll just take a look at the Euro model, and just what I want you to see as I run through this is, here's the little light drizzle that we've had around today. It's just been kind of a gloomy day. The model did not handle well today at all. The model was saying, oh, we're going to fall through the 30s today. We actually rose into the 40s. But it did get the little bit of drizzle right. It's something that we really didn't even detect by radar. It was just an annoying little light mist more than anything. As you go through here, though, high pressure starts to take charge. It'll be what we call a dirty high, so there will be some clouds mixed in with the sun, but we stay dry. You see a little bit of a disturbance, and this would be snow for a Christmas day moving into northern Indiana and Illinois. Does look like it's going to sort of pass over us, though, stay more in central Indiana and quickly move out. And then on Thursday, it looks like there's another disturbance that moves through. Now, the Euro, this particular run, doesn't bring anything down into our area. In some of the past runs, it did bring some light flurry accumulation down into our area. So take that for what you will. We'll just have to see how that develops. And but really beyond that, you see a lot of precipitation free coming through for us until you get here until about this is Sunday the 30th of December here late in the evening, and you see another chance of some snow moving through. Remember, all the blue lines here, everything north of that first blue line should be snow. That first blue line, what's labeled as the 540 line, being the rain-snow changeover line. So this is looking potentially at Monday the 30th of December, potentially from the way things look, could have a little bit of snow with it. We'll just have to see. It doesn't look overly impressive on this model at this point. From the GFS's perspective, we'll go ahead and go through this as well just to give you an idea. And this is, I don't have the ability to show you this with the Euro, but I do with the GFS, and this is showing precipitation type. So as you go through here, you see there's high pressure starting to take charge, and a 1037 high. I understand that's Greek to most people, 1037 millibars. Just understand that's a pretty strong high, stronger than what the Euro actually had, I believe. And so that'll give us mostly sunny skies on Tuesday, but then as it moves off to the east, we'll cloud up a little bit more, but really it's going to be partly cloudy most of the week. There's that disturbance moving through, some snow up to our north, and again, the GFS is not very aggressive with bringing that to our south. Some of the past models had, not as much this time. I've still left it into the forecast, but I've only put a 20% chance of snow showers. I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to be major, and it may even be able to take it out in the next day or so if this trend continues. And then, of course, the next big thing that comes in, you see here on the 29th of December, Sunday, you see a little bit of a disturbance moving through. And really, it looks like it starts as a rain type of setup as we warm up for a little while, and then potentially go to some snow showers on the back side of it. And but this is not an impressive looking system from the GFS. Now, the Euro had it as a little bit more impressive looking, but not a whole lot. This, of course, by the way, if you remember my video updates last week, I talked about the GFS had a fairly impressive system that could dump several inches of snow. This is what it's done with that system now. So as I said, things can change. Now, when we look into the long-range forecast, we look for the pattern, but we don't look at the specific details, because very far off, the GFS just flat out sucks. It can see events, but it can't really get the fine details of the events. And so it may paint it to be a big event when it turns out to be a minor event. It may paint out to be a minor event when it turns out to be a big event, but it helps us to understand that disturbances will be moving through. Don't take this with a grain of salt. We could still end up with a major snowstorm out of this, but for those of you snow lovers, it looks a little doubtful at this point, but it could happen, so we'll just have to see how it comes. You know, whenever you're talking about a week in advance, these models can change pretty darn quickly. So, but as of right now, it doesn't look like we have anything overly major in advance. The big story is going to be the cool down that we're going to end up with. So if we take a look at the Euro model, and we'll just take a look at the temperature trend this week to give you an idea where you're going, where we're headed out with this. Here we are. We'll start off by tomorrow morning. Whenever you wake up, it takes us to about 26 degrees here in Huntingburg, 26 in Evansville, 25 in Bloomington. So mid-20s pretty much for low tomorrow morning as you wake up. Then as you go into the day on Monday, it warms us up to 29 degrees by 1 p.m., maybe closer to 32, 33, something like that as you go through the afternoon hours. And then we go into Monday night into Tuesday morning. You notice the bottom falls out of the thermometer again, and thankfully we're not dealing with negative temperatures as they are up here, if I can get that back. But 16 degrees is still mighty cold enough, and that's a good 10 to 15 degrees below average for where we should be this time of the year. We moderate a little bit on Christmas Day. By the time you wake up on Christmas morning, it should be about 22 degrees according to this model. And then as you wake up, as you go throughout the day on Wednesday, if I can ever get this thing to cooperate with me a little bit, it only has us going to, well, it gets us up to about 35 on Wednesday in this model, so maybe a little bit higher than that. So really, Tuesday looks to be the cold day, and then we warm up from there. And then, of course, as you go throughout there, throughout the rest of the week on this pattern, we stay kind of within the 30s, even back into a little bit of the 40s by the time you get to the weekend through this. So let's talk about what's coming up in the long term, though, because right now we've got one cold day to deal with on Tuesday, and I mean one bitterly cold day. The 30s are still fairly cold, but it's December, late December. This is to be expected. The 20s, 22 for a high, 23 for a high on Tuesday. That's just ridiculously cold and well below normal. But it's only going to be one day. It looks like as we head into the first part of December, that could become sort of the norm for a few days for us. Let me put this into motion. Let me just explain it first. What you're seeing here is winds about 18,000 feet up into the atmosphere, because we're looking at the 500 millibar level. And the colors are actually height anomalies. We know, based on a 30-year average, how far up 18,000 feet should be. This 500 millibar level should be. How far up the pressure should be, and it varies somewhere around 18,000 feet, less to the north, further to the south. We know where that level should be. whenever you see these cooler colors, these blues and these greens, what that means, that's a lower level. That means the pressure is lower there, and that's an indication of colder weather sinking down into us. And really what you're going to see is what we call the polar vortex coming down upon us. So let me sort of just put this into motion, and we'll get it back to the start here and just sort of play it out. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Now we're coming in, so, you know, like I say, here you go on Tuesday, and you've got a little bit of that colder weather. But then we moderate back a little bit. We get these warmer temperatures a little bit. But then what you see here happening, just notice right up here in Canada, what you're seeing here again, this is the polar vortex. This is ridiculously cold air coming down, and watch how it just infiltrates us from Canada. We get a little bit of a shot of it, and then boom, we get a major shot of it. And I know you don't understand necessarily this. When you see these greens, that's 2 to 2.8 standard deviations below normal. Some of you who are into statistics will understand that a little bit. But you should understand this is well below normal temperatures really for the first part of January. And so whereas we may hit 22 on Tuesday, but then we warm back up to maybe 37 or so on Christmas Day, this could be looking at an extended period of low 20s in the early part of January is what this would mean. Now, is there data to back this up otherwise? Well, if you take a look at our old friend, the Arctic Oscillation, the AO, we've looked at this in the past, and remember, you want a negative, if you want cold air to come down from Canada, you want a negative AO. What is it we see? Here about the 27th of December, you notice that it starts to go negative. What you're seeing here, just follow the black line. All these others are just ensemble members of the GFS, but the black is the control, the regular operational GFS. But all pretty much here just indicates it's below zero. It's below the zero line, and down into 1, sometimes even close to -2 on the chart here. That is an indication of very cold air coming down, and you notice it doesn't go back positive again. So that's cold air that's going to come down, and it looks like it stays for a while because it starts here about the 27th. As it reloads, as it comes down in here, yeah, we get a little bit, it takes a little bit to kick in, but then it sticks around for a while. So you take a look at just the raw data numbers from this, that's exactly what you see. And we come into Christmas Eve and you see some pretty colder weather, but then it warms back up for a little bit. But all of a sudden, by the time the year's end comes, we are just absolutely slammed with, oh, here we go, 27 all the way. But you notice we never make it to the 30s outside of that. So instead of just one day, we get multiple days of it, and that's what the polar vortex dropping down will do. So we'll just have to kind of watch this. All indications are right now the very first part of January could be a very cold pattern. Now, as far as storm systems, we'll have to watch that closely as well. We don't have our eye on anything big right now, but realistically, any storm system that comes through whenever you're talking about cold temperatures like that, well, that could bring some decent bouts of snow with us. So we'll have to monitor that and see how it goes. And by the way, for you cold lovers, it's actually a good thing whenever we warm back up into the 40s like this, because cold air can't sustain itself this far south if it stays. If it just kind of stays like that, eventually we'll warm back up. And when we have a period of days when we warm back up into the 40s like that, and the cold weather is confined more back up into Canada than it is here, actually what it does is reload that colder weather and allows for colder spots to come down like that. And that's exactly what's going to happen. We warm back up a little bit, the polar vortex stays up in here into Canada, it sort of recharges its batteries and gets even colder. That colder weather gets dumped down to us eventually, and so that'll be a pattern that we end up seeing all winter long. But pretty much for the first part of January, that's what we want to keep our eye on. Any storm system that moves through then could have the potential to dump some snow. We'll keep you updated. Go to southernindianaweather.com. You can always get the 7-day forecast. Looking at about 34 for a high tomorrow, partly cloudy and cold. Tuesday, as I've said, it's going to be pretty cold. Mostly sunny skies. That'll be nice to see some bright sunshine, but only 23 for a high. And then Christmas Day we moderate a little bit, back up to 37. So we get a little bit of a warmth in there. Maybe a few snow showers on Thursday, but as I said, that chance is iffy right now. I've only got it at 20%. That may be able to come out, and then some snow, then some showers potentially back in our way for the weekend. So That is your latest update. I will bring you more updates to come as things develop. For Southern Indiana weather, I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite. Have a great day and Merry Christmas, folks.